The Galactic Empire had ruled the known universe for over 10,000 cycles, an unbroken reign of dominance forged through conquest and ironclad discipline. Their war machines had crushed 1,000 civilizations, their legions standing unchallenged across the stars. Among them, humanity was a mere footnote, a minor species from a backwater planet, barely a century into interstellar travel. When humanity first made contact with the Empire, the Senate scoffed at their kind. "They are weak," one senator sneered, his mandibles clicking in amusement. "They fear war." It was true that, unlike many species, humans avoided war whenever possible. They brokered treaties, sought peace, and hesitated before drawing their weapons. But what the Empire failed to understand was that humanity did not fear war. They simply loathed it. And there was a critical difference between fearing something and hating it. That lesson came too late. The mockery of man. The Empire continued to expand, absorbing weaker species into its fold. When human diplomats protested the subjugation of their allies, they were met with laughter. The Empire's generals, seasoned conquerors who had crushed countless civilizations, dismissed them. "You humans tremble at the thought of battle," Grand Marshal Volkar of the Imperial Legions had said. "You cower behind words, hoping we will be merciful. But mercy is for the strong." Then, in an act of supreme arrogance, the Empire declared Earth a protectorate. Humanity was not conquered, but it was placed under imperial authority. A show of force. A message. On the galactic networks, alien commentators joked about the softskins and their reluctance to fight. On the imperial homeworld of Philos, statues were raised mocking the idea of humans ever being warriors. Peaceful primates, they called them. The war-fearing weaklings. They did not know they had just made the greatest mistake in the history of their empire. The ruthless human general. Humanity did not respond with protests. They did not plead. They did not beg. Instead, they sent a single message to the Galactic Senate, delivered in person by General Leon Carter, Supreme Commander of Earth's armed forces. The man who entered the Senate chambers was not a politician. He was not a diplomat. He was a soldier, his uniform crisp, his medals gleaming. His face was carved from years of war, deep lines, cold eyes, a mouth that never smiled. He had fought in the wars of Earth, where battlefields stretched across continents and conflicts were measured in megadeaths. He stepped forward, placed a small data pad on the central podium, and activated it. The hologram that flickered to life displayed something that sent a cold shiver through the assembly, an official declaration of war. Not resistance. Not rebellion. War. The Empire had assumed humanity would protest or attempt to negotiate. They had not expected the humans to declare war on them. The Senate chamber erupted in stunned murmurs. Even the Imperial Emperor, seated high above, leaned forward in shock. Marshal Volkar was the first to speak. "You are declaring war on the Empire?" His voice carried a mixture of disbelief and amusement. "You, the species that fears war?" General Carter looked up at him, his expression unreadable. "You misunderstand," he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the massive chamber. "We do not fear war. We hate war." A pause. Then, he continued. "But there is something humanity hates even more, tyrants who mistake patience for weakness." The words sent a ripple through the assembly. Before anyone could respond, Carter spoke again, his voice turning cold. "You wanted to see what humanity is like in war?" He leaned forward slightly. "You just got your wish." Then he turned, walked out of the chamber, and left behind a silent, uneasy empire. The unleashing of hell. The first sign that humanity was unlike any species the Empire had faced came 2 weeks later. An Imperial fleet, 300 ships strong, was sent to blockade Earth. The Empire expected resistance, but anticipated a swift and decisive victory. What they encountered instead was annihilation. The moment the fleet entered the Sol system, humanity's weapons were already locked onto them. The Empire's ships, accustomed to planetary bombardments and slow orbital sieges, were unprepared for Earth's doctrine of immediate, overwhelming force. Within the first 5 minutes, half the fleet was gone. By the 10th minute, the rest were either crippled or retreating. The survivors, limping back to the Empire, spoke in hushed, terrified tones about Earth's weapons, railguns that fired at relativistic speeds, missiles that changed vectors mid-flight, and ships that moved with a ferocity and aggression unseen in galactic warfare. But the worst was yet to come. Humanity did not simply defend Earth. They launched their own invasion. Within a month, human shock troopers had landed on the Empire's outer colonies. They did not fight like the orderly, disciplined legions of the Empire. They fought like demons. They adapted, learned, and struck with merciless precision. Cities burned. Entire regiments vanished overnight. Imperial commanders watched in horror as battle after battle ended the same way: total human victory. The Empire, for the first time in its history, knew what it was to be hunted. The fear they never knew. The war raged for years. The mighty Empire, which had never lost a war in 10 millennia, now fought desperately for survival. Their once mighty fleets were shattered. Their armies, once invincible, were now shattered remnants of what they had been. And then came the final act. General Carter, the man who had declared this war, stood on the imperial homeworld of Philos. The capital city burned around him. The spires that had once reached the heavens now lay in ruins, brought down by orbital bombardments. The emperor himself knelt before him, broken and defeated. "You," the emperor choked out, his voice barely a whisper. "You do not fear war." Carter looked down at him, his expression unchanged. "No," he said quietly, "but you do now." Then he raised his weapon and fired. The Empire fell that day. The species that had mocked humanity had learned the final, undeniable truth. Humanity did not fear war. But when forced into it, they were the last thing anyone in the galaxy ever wanted to face.